You're listening to Find the Good News, Episode 18, The Inside Out, featuring Lyd Walls. This episode of Find the Good News is sponsored by Parker Brand Creative Services, a branding agency that thinks sideways, pushes forward, and gets your brand up. Check out our work at parkerbrandup.com. Would you like to help make sure I'm asking my guests the really good questions? Just visit findthegood.news and click the questions tab. I'll see if I can get your question dropped in the fishbowl. Each episode, my guests will dive deep, select 3 random questions, and if yours is selected, I'll ask it on the show. That's findthegood.news. There's something soothing about loose strokes and abstract flowing colors on canvas, and that comfort is what I found myself settling into when I looked at the nude paintings of Lyd Walls. This art was being born from somewhere. I was curious, so I invited Lyd to visit me on Find the Good News. One of my greatest pleasures in life is getting to know the backstory of a person, the beyond of a thing, lifting the rock and getting to visit the places where the roly-polies play. That's the territory that Lyd and I traveled together. Lyd has allowed her personal trials to shape her and change her for the better. She's doing the hard work, the good inner work, the work we should all do. She's asked herself the important questions. Who am I? Why am I doing what I'm doing? What will I do with this life? She's looked inside, taken the lid off, knocked down the walls, and let a new being emerge. Everything she's learned from this inner work manifests through her hands and gives life to her artistic works. These lovely figures breathe. They're as honest, wonderful, exposed, and colorful as Lyd herself. The good she's done for herself is a good she shares with us.
Wake up, it's morning. You're dreaming up a story. I can hear the way it's going, 'cause you're laughing in your sleep on the path to your deliverance, and a holy wall of light pouring through your window.
Old news, bad news, fake news. Sometimes you just want to shut it all down and get no news at all. With Find the Good News, I aim to change that by focusing on good people doing good work. I visit with artists, educators, civic and spiritual leaders, musicians, business owners, students, volunteers, and everyday citizens who are using their creativity, resources, and talents to bring hope and happiness to their corner of the world. In each episode, I dig into the hearts and minds of my extraordinary guests. We have street-level conversations about relatable things going on in their lives. Discover the critical life experiences that shape them, the perspectives that drive them, and the fundamental beliefs that are anchoring them to a path of goodness. There's a lot of news in the world. My name is Oran Parker, and I'm going to find the good.
And I love you just as well.
You ever done one of these?
No, I have not.
First time? Have you ever been on the radio or anything?
No.
Oh, really? What about video?
It's like, I did a segment on KPLC once.
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
It's extremely nerve-wracking.
This shouldn't be like that at all.
I hope not.
Have you listened to this show?
I have, yeah, absolutely.
Well, cool. So what do you think?
I think it's great. I love what you're doing.
Well, good.
And
I'm glad.
You're like you can tell when you listen to the show that you are a conversationalist.
I like talking to people. Yeah, I do. That's true.
I like that you dig deep, as I'm a deep thinker.
Good.
As well,
This should be fun then.
I dig. I'm an introvert, so I don't like shallow talk.
I am too. I am too. I read a lot about that because I think there was probably a time where saying you were an introvert was maybe a bad thing.
Yeah, I think you're right. There was a
changing.
stigma attached to it, but I don't know. It seems to be like there are more introverts out there than we originally thought.
Yeah, I think it was misdiagnosed, so to speak, that it was, they're not people, or they're not...
right, and that's not the case at all.
No, not at all.
No, we're very people. We just want to talk about real shit.
Yeah, right on. Thank you. That's exactly it. I love... I say it on the show all the time. I love people, but I'm scared of people.
Yeah.
So it's like... that kind of thing is kind of hard to explain to somebody.
Right.
You know, you think, well, if you love to sit down and talk, you must love to talk to everybody. And it's like, I prefer an intimate setting where it's one-on-one, or maybe smaller groups of people.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I get a little freaked out by larger gatherings.
I do too, and I tend to just kind of be the observer. You know, I like to be that little wallflower.
Yeah.
And kind of hide if I can. I don't have the confidence to speak in large groups of people.
Yeah, I've dealt with everything you just said. I would say that's exactly, probably maybe 10 to 12 years ago, that was almost debilitating for me. Like I avoided so many things that I probably would have really enjoyed. But it was like, and I don't know if that's a control thing or what. I've thought about it a lot, but and even this show, I mean, I can't lie. If I'm being honest, I think about it and I go, so why do this, right? Because I ask everybody on this show, like, why do something instead of nothing, right?
Right.
So I got to ask myself that same question. So why do this show instead of not doing the show? And I wonder, you know, is that a control thing? Is it like, well, in the show, I can choose when, where, why, and how, and who, and all of that.
Right.
So is that a control thing that I have a problem with, or is it, I don't know, just stuff you, I don't know, stuff you ask yourself.
I get it. Yeah, I completely relate to what you just said too. Most of my life, I've been absolutely debilitated by that need to not be seen or heard.
Yeah.
You know, I was just so crippled by what people might think of me, or how I might come off. And I, as you said, I've missed out on so many things in life that I regret.
Yeah.
You know, and just now I'm 47, so I started saying to myself, "This you're not going to do this anymore. You know, you've got to really like embrace life, and it doesn't matter." So I've only recently just started to come out of my shell in the last 8 years or so.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because, you know, I talked to Ben about this. I actually think I may have talked to everybody about this on the show, how easy it is to just make a fiction about somebody in your mind without really, you know, social media is a big culprit in that.
Absolutely.
Because we show people what we want them to see.
Absolutely.
And maybe manicure it to some degree, but you know, I could say before meeting you, this is the first time we've talked, you know?
Yeah.
Now, since we connected online, you know, I begin to say, okay, she's liked this thing that I've liked, or okay, we're in the same sort of orbits. And your brain starts to paint a picture of a person, you know, whether you know it's happening or not. And you're like, oh man, you know, she's kind of a cool chick, her art's cool, and these people are buying her art, and so your mind starts to create like a little narrative about this person, right?
Yeah, we all do it.
It's so fascinating. And then you sit and meet the person, you're like, I think it's refreshing. It's a great exercise.
Oh, sure.
To go, oh, I was so
off,
so off, and then also so shallow, just such a little one dimension thing.
Yeah.
But I do think that social media is that way. I think news is that way too. I mean, I watch what happens to my mind. For me, it really shifted with I think just the overall climate. I don't know, it's been shifting for a long time. I think the overall climate just shifted in the last 4 years. There's like a negative sentiment out there, like, you know, that we should all complain.
Right.
You know, like we really all have a right to complain and should complain. And I'm not saying we shouldn't, but I have a little, I don't know, I guess my thinking is if we're going to complain, let it have value. Like mean something, not just but because, hey, maybe this is something that's worth standing on a line about. Yeah. Because it actually has value versus, you know, complaining about maybe the way someone's experience was in a store, they didn't have enough checkout people, or whatever the kaleidoscope of complaints are out in the world. You know,
I agree. I think It's been really disheartening seeing all that play out on social media, especially.
Sure.
We have definitely lost our tolerance for each other.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
And that really bugs me.
Me too.
Like, what happened?
Yeah.
God, what
I don't
happened?
know what happened, and I don't know. I think about this all the time. I mean, I think the biggest poverty in the world, and there are a lot of poverties, and I always have to be careful about making big blanket statements like that, because there are some real poverties in the world, like real painful things, but I think you can trace all of it back into how we treat each other.
Yeah, the poverty is compassion.
Yeah, right. That's right. That's the best way to say
gone.
it. Poverty of compassion. Yeah, to suffer with is something lacking. Now, I say it's lacking. I mean, I meet people all the time, especially on the show like this, where people do have compassion. They do want to feel, but for the other. But yeah, as a whole, collectively, you can definitely see the tolerance levels just drop.
Right. Yeah, and maybe it's a means to a necessary evil to get to where we actually need to be. You know what I mean? Like,
no, I get you.
Maybe
you have to get sick to death of it.
Yeah,
I'm at that point.
To make a change, we need a shift in consciousness, and
agree.
Maybe we just all need to be like, oh my God, I can't stand this anymore. Something's got to change.
Totally agree.
I need to be different. We need to be different.
Everything you're saying, seriously. I mean, I know I preach against living in an echo chamber, but I can echo chamber that back. I hit that. I remember being in a local shop a few months ago. We were just talking about our spiritual practice and our faith and stuff, and I just said, I'm kind of sick to death of living in a world where it's expected to be kind until it's time to roll up your sleeves and not be. I said, because I think we've that's become a real easy out to just kind of be an asshole.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, well, I throw my faith out the window at the first sign of injustice, or what I call unjust, whatever my little unjust tweakers are out there. And I said, I'm just tired of living like that. I'm tired of the solution being lashing back. I'm tired of feeling like, well, there's the but, I guess, to everything. It's like, well, be kind, except. Yeah. Or be nice, but. Right. I was like, I'm tired of living like that. I was like, what happens if you take that language out of the equation
and just put a period at the end? Be kind, period.
Yeah. Even when it's especially like when it's hard. Yeah. And that's what I think art does. I mean, you're an artist. Yeah. And so that's one of the things on this show. When I started it, I didn't really intend for so many artists to come through. I mean, I don't really care who comes through, but at the same time, I didn't expect it to be that way. But what I think I'm discovering through that is, and it's not a big revelation, is that how important a part art plays in people's happiness level and joy. And artists, to me, seem, one thing that I find interesting is that everybody comes to it from a different place. I've had so many different people on here, and each person is an artist and has skills and talent, but everybody comes to it for different reasons, has a different story. Yeah. And why they're doing it's different. How their styles develops different. I don't know. It's just a beautiful thing. To me, I see something kind of divine in it, because on my morning walk this morning, I was looking, there's just some property that there's nothing going on in there. It's property for sale. It's been there since I was a kid. And I just kind of stared in there for a little while, and I thought, just in this little half acre of land is all this variety. Right. Weeds and flowers and vines and dead trees, and some are blooming now, and some things are dying now. It's cold, and I thought, that's art. Absolutely. It's exactly what all these different artists are. Absolutely. Yeah. You seeing that is your art. You being able to see that is your art, because most people are passing that by. Those little things that add beauty to your surroundings. I wonder if that's just the maybe the deception of modern living, sort of, just to get.
Gosh, we're all so focused on what's next. How do I get more? How do I do better? How do I? And we're not living in the moment, are we?
No, I agree. What is me too.
I'm totally
I mean, every day. Oh gosh. I mean, I am the very problem. I mean, that's yeah. I mean, I'm going to do it today 100 times a day. Things that don't work towards mindfulness or being present or yeah. And it's, again, sometimes it's just luck of the draw. This is the world we've been born into, the time we've been born into.
And there's a purpose in that,
sure.
I believe,
Yeah.
Our souls brought us here at this time for whatever reason.
Right. You could totally not do anything and just ride along to your last breath and, or hopefully, I don't know, do something with that time, even if it's just help yourself wake up or help somebody else wake up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, how did you come to art? I mean, this is again, art is subjective in a lot of ways, but your art's very different, in my opinion, from anybody I've had on the show thus far.
Yeah. Well, I've always been a creative. I was born a creative. I think all creatives are born creative. So it's been, I guess I really didn't discover painting, I didn't discover painting until 2005.
Okay.
And up until that point, I'd always found different outlets of creativity, even in the smallest things like cooking dinner that evening or whatever. I was always finding a way to be creative. I got into the hair business. That was the most creative thing I could think of. So a significant, I guess a bad time in my marriage made me, it's the kind of thing that makes you step back and just question your purpose. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? Where are you headed?
Sure.
And then that phrase, life is short, pops in, and you're just like, I'm going to really pursue what I love, and it doesn't matter what happens with it.
Yeah.
So I just picked up paintbrushes and I just started painting, and it was really just pushing paint on canvas. It wasn't anything at all. It was just feeling an emotion and just expressing it through movement and color and texture, and eventually progressed into this.
Yeah.
So,
well, you've developed quite a unique style. I mean, when I first saw your art, I don't remember where I saw it at, actually. I want to say it was Rouge et Blanc. Were you painting at Rouge et Blanc?
Yeah,
okay.
I was painting live.
Yeah, okay. So I saw some videos possibly, or some pictures. I can't really recall, but I thought, immediately I was drawn to it because it reminded me of, I love contour drawings. I used to love that in art class in college. Some kids hated it because it's so... people, loose. They'll say, "Oh, but I can draw better than this." I'm like, "Yeah, but there's something special about the looseness of it and the oddness of it." And so when I looked at your art, I kind of, for me, it just made me think of that because that's a human figure.
Yeah.
These are figurative paintings, but there's something just different about this. I thought it was just really cool.
Oh, thanks.
Just different. And as I went and looked at your art, I was like, "Yeah, she's got a definite thing going here with this."
Yeah, thanks. It's I recently, well, I guess it was probably maybe January of 2018. I guess I had moved into these sort of loose abstract figures, and it took me a minute to figure out what was happening, like emotionally with me, what brought me to this. And I had just been, I got divorced maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and since then I've been on this self-discovery mode, that whole cliche thing. And so it just kind of developed from there, and I've been allowing or giving myself permission to be vulnerable because I had never done that before, especially with, you know, the public or even people close to me, you know, family members. It was being vulnerable was just, oof.
Yeah, I've been through that. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Couldn't do that. And then I became a Brené Brown fan, or I don't know if you're familiar with her, but oh man, you got to check out her stuff.
Okay.
Check out what she's got some really great TED Talks. But she preaches on vulnerability, and she says that vulnerability is our greatest measure of courage. And oh my God, she's so right.
Yeah, I believe that too.
Yeah.
I think it's essential to heal the mess we've kind of made in the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a wounded heart revealed is a blessing.
It is.
I think that's where the magic happens.
For yourself and for others.
Yeah, right. Both ways.
And it's the only way to truly connect with someone.
Yeah.
And I had been missing connection my entire life. Because
Really?
I chose to close myself off from people.
When did that start? Like the closing off? Because I understand it too. Early childhood?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Just different, you know, incidents where I was just, you know, kind of what everybody goes through. You're ousted from a group, or you're not completely accepted by your peers.
Yeah.
But for me, I turned that experience into something, you know, kind of traumatic, and it affected me deeply emotionally. And I chose to not feel that way anymore. So
yeah, I know exactly. Not exactly, but I do understand what you're saying, because that's something I try to do a lot, is go back in time and go, where are the key moments where this behavior sort of came from? Where did it start? You know, I'll give you an example. Speaking of being wounded and open, I mean, when my wife and I first started seeing each other, she has a very large family, and my family's not large like that at all. In interacting with her family, and especially at the holidays, and since it's the holidays, it's kind of relevant because it's coming, and I can feel the anxiety building for me. And she knows, she's aware. We've had lots of talks all these years about it. I said, but you know, there's an anxiety that builds for me at the holidays that comes from these large parties, family, I say parties, just families, gatherings. And, you know, and it's not, again, going back to what you said, I'm not antisocial, and I don't dislike any of the people there. And I always worry now that I'm aware of the way I behave, that I'm coming off like I don't like these people. Totally not true. But I started trying to kind of dig into, why do I feel this? Why do I behave this way? Why do I start to kind of go in and want to just go stand outside and, you know, just sit on the porch swing and not be in the mix and do all the round of hugs and all that? Because I love hugs. It's kind of a funny issue, because I love hugging. I hug my children.
Yeah.
I hug my wife. And when I give a hug or receive a hug, I feel loved. I mean, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
But when I'm in a group of people that I don't see but a few times a year, that desire to do all of that just melts away. And I was like, when did this begin, this behavior, you know? And I mean, I kind of nitpicked it to death to try to figure it out, but I think it goes back to early childhood, because I started thinking about it, and I said, you know, there was a time in my family where we did have parties like this. We would go to my grandmother's house, and it was all my aunts and uncles and cousins, and I was little, but it was joy, and my memories of that time are joy. But there comes a point where I stop having those memories and the joy sort of disappears. I'm like, so what changed? And all I can think of is some things that my grandmother has told me that kind of happened between her and my father, and just some negative things, without really getting all into that. But these things sort of caused those events to dissolve, and then we stopped doing them altogether. And I think that planted something in me, like whatever those things were that were happening was in my mind as a child. It was a trigger to say, when these types of things happen, these negative things are going to happen, so it's best to avoid these things.
Right.
And that's what I think's happening. And I'm, again, 44 years old, going, I'm still subconsciously responding like this 8, 9, 10-year-old kid.
Yep.
And I don't know how, even, and you know, on one hand, awareness is step one of most things.
Absolutely.
But even awareness isn't powerful enough to stop the old behavior.
Right. I think eventually it will be,
Just,
though.
but, you know, I'm 44, so I'm going, how much life I got to spend the next, you know, now with awareness, you said however many years I've got less. Let's say I live to be as old as my father, which was 63. I've got less than 20 years to figure that out and try to.
You're going to live longer than that.
I mean, but you know, you start to go.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, yeah. So you got to. I think it's the work. You got to put the inner work has to be put in.
The work in, and you know, it's not. It does not feel good to get in there with yourself and dig through all the dirt.
Yeah.
You know, looking in the mirror and calling yourself out.
Right.
Or saying, damn it, I'm not letting this fear control me anymore.
Right.
I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here today.
Yeah.
You would have asked me this a year ago, I'd have been like,
Because of the being revealing, or because of just the one-on-one, or somebody you don't know?
Just how I would come off to others listening to the show.
Yeah, because you know someone's going to hear this, and they're going to go, what's Lyd talking about?
What are they going to think?
Yeah.
And I still care about that, but I'm not letting it dictate my choices anymore.
That's good.
Yeah.
No, I agree, because I could say the same thing a year ago. Would I have done this show? No. Or even really years ago. I mean, one of my goals with this show, which I really haven't brought up on the show, just in private discussions, is to find one thing that I can learn from each person. I'm going to learn a lot, but what's the one thing that I can do, take away, that I can actually apply? Like, for instance, her episode hasn't aired yet, but I interviewed Elizabeth McDaniel.
Yeah.
She had, Booty Yoga.
Good
Yeah,
friend.
that's right.
Good friend of
that's
mine.
right. She mentioned you on the show. Well, I'm not going to go. I mean, I thought about it. I was like, hey, I'd go do that. Just, that would take a big leap of faith for me. She said some men go do it. I said, that would take a lot for me to do that. And realistically, as I contemplated it over the last few days after talking to her, I said, you know, it's going to take more than I've got to get me there. But there are things that came up from talking to her that I used to do that I don't do anymore. And I talked a lot about that. Was in her episode was, I used to go do Tai Chi every morning in my 20s, and I loved it. And something happened that caused me to quit. I never did it again. Talking to her made me realize, hey, okay, I can add that back into my life. There's no reason I shouldn't.
Right.
So yeah, I'm not going to her class, but her conversation gave me something I can add back into my life. Where am I going with this? I guess what my point is that you can change. It's just sometimes, you know, it's just a little dose. It's one thing. It's like doing one thing different, going to try something and sort of making yourself do it repetitively to where you go, okay, for me, I have to do things that way. Yeah. I have to settle into them for them to stick.
Yeah.
Does that?
Absolutely. Yeah. I have to, it's kind of the same for me. I'm a pretty laid back person, you know, physically, mentally. And so I have to put it in my mind and have it sit there for a while and make a home. Yeah. And then I can act. But for me to just say, oh, I'm going to go do this today, usually doesn't happen that way. Yeah. I've got to absorb it, process it, let it live for a minute. Okay. And then I can act on it. Like, I've always wanted to do martial arts, you know, like Tai Chi or whatever. And I recently did a women's self-defense class.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
And at one of the local places. And it was amazing. It was awesome. And I was like, damn, I'm 47. Why did I wait this long? Yeah. So I said, all right, I've always wanted to do this. I'm going to do it. I'm allowing it to live in my mental space right now. But it's going to happen. I'm going to start doing these classes soon. Yeah. Yeah.
But you do it, and then you had, like, yeah, I see what you mean. You have to let it settle. Well, you said...
But that's just me. You know, other people are like, yeah, oh, yeah, I'm doing that, and they're gone. Like, good for them. I admire that, but that's not how I work, and I know that now. Yeah. You know, I used to beat myself up for a long time and make myself seem of less than a person than that other person
I
because
do
I
this.
wasn't doing things the same way they were doing it.
Yeah.
Not realizing that, well, you're a completely different person than that person.
Yeah. No, I get it. I mean,
lighten
I've
up,
beat
Lyd.
myself up.
Yeah.
I still do that. I mean, I'm not going to lie and say I'm completely free of that. Comparative behavior, you
Yeah.
know, and I don't know where that comes from or why I'm wired to do that, but I do that. I mean, still like going,
I think it's, I think society does that to us. You
Yeah.
know? I think just as a whole, we just all live in that space where we're like, well, this person's doing that. Why aren't I doing that? Which is a good thing. But at the same time, I feel like we need to lower expectations. And I don't mean that in a bad way or like a lazy way. You know what I mean? But like, we have to acknowledge our own expectations for ourselves and not be living up to someone else's expectations, because that's just setting ourselves up for failure, I believe.
Yeah.
And I'm happy, I know it.
You've probably heard me mention filming videos, building websites, creating logos, or building brands on this podcast. Well, there's a good reason for that. I'm a brand builder, and my brand is Parker Brand Creative Services. My team and I have built countless brands in the Gulf Coast region, and a lot of our work in the travel and tourism industry is experienced across the country and honestly the whole world. We have our specialties: web, logo, package, and whole brand design, as well as video production and photography. But the reality is, we function as a full-service advertising agency to businesses that don't really mesh well with larger advertising agencies or just don't want to have in-house creative departments. But don't listen to what I say. Just go to our website, parkerbrandup.com, and take a look at what we do. We're a show it, don't say it team. Okay, you should definitely say it too, but you know what I mean. That's parkerbrandup.com. We think sideways, we push forward, and we'll get your brand up.
So take this, you've earned it, a melody and chorus.
Well, it's true. I mean, with children and everything, I mean, I could say that the way I raise my children is totally different than maybe somebody else I know, and the way
Yeah,
their
sure.
standards for their children. I've never really been one, I'm proud of my children, but I've never been one to want to use them as a benchmark for my own success.
Right.
You know, I've tried to treat them just like the way I treat myself and go, you're a different person than me.
Yeah.
That's hard to do with your kids. Like to
It
go,
is.
you're your own being. You're not me again. You're not, you may have pieces of me in you, you know, through just blood and bone, but you're still your own being.
Yeah.
I mean, it's when you have several children, you see it. I mean, they become who they're going. They're their own people, and so I try to start out like that with all of them. And so using them as a benchmark of my value is kind of strange behavior to me.
Yeah.
But I
It's
mean,
a fine line too, you know, like it's a fine line between allowing them to be their own person and making sure you want to instill good values,
Yeah.
moral system, you know, moral code.
yeah.
So there's that fine line.
Sure, because I mean, then that moral. I mean, look, I can tell you just. Well, now we're really getting out, and to see we're going all over the place. You know, I think about it with my children, because when they begin to engage with other children in their social circles, and then they come home and they've maybe been attacked or something, that because of who they are, they've been chastised or something like that. The way they deal with that a lot of the time is the way that it comes from our moral center that's in our home.
Right.
But the reason they're attacked comes from a moral center that's in somebody else's home. And it's interesting because it's very tribal in that regard, how families themselves are just little tribes, and we're not all. It goes back to what we were saying. It's like treating each other better just as a rule first.
Yeah.
Would be a great tool, because I don't know that that's always the way we're taught, is that the first rule is the golden rule, right? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Should that not always be the first rule? Because if you make that the first rule, and then every other rule is beholden to that rule, it would change the way we function. And I find when I watch my children interact with other kids, I go, a lot of what the aggression they maybe are receiving from somebody else is really just learned behavior.
Yeah.
It's sort of parroting what the parents do.
Right.
And so, and again, that's a blanket statement. I have no idea what everybody's doing, but, you know, just in general, what I've experienced is that. And so with my kids, I try to take a different approach and go, well, yeah, I want to give you some morals, but at the same time, I have to remember that you're also a person. You have a thought of your own.
Right.
So I have to respect that. I get told a lot that that's not the way, because I'll tell you what I laughed at the other day. You know, Elf on the Shelf. Some people do Elf on the Shelf. Well, we do it too. Now, why do I do Elf on the Shelf? I guess I missed what it was about, because I do it because it's fun. My kid loves hide and seek. The end.
Yeah.
But what I've discovered, and this is just my own ignorance, is that people use Elf on the Shelf as a deterrent, as a punishment. It's a way for Santa Claus to watch you.
Oh,
through
I didn't
the elf.
know that either, I guess.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of this sentiment that, well, it's really more the elf is watching. Okay, that's what Elf on the Shelf is. I was like, oh, I thought it was just a funny game of hide and seek. So once I learned that, and I was like, so, because somebody posted, all you parents that are using Elf on the Shelf to keep your kids in line, I've got a better one for you. It's called Belt on the Shelf. And when I read that, I'm not gonna lie, I went, ugh, gross.
Yeah.
But that's a form of parenting that I just don't do. And I go, well, my kid's better or worse for it. The thought of that, just I tried to put myself in that headspace of like, so that was funny to say, ha ha ha, Belt on the Shelf. And that parent thought that was a good thing.
Yeah.
It's funny. And I was like, is this funny? And I don't know. For me, maybe I made a bigger thing out of it than I needed to in my own head, but I really did. It kind of bothered me.
Yeah.
It's like, so that's funny. The idea of taking off a piece of apparel and whipping my kid is a better idea than Elf on the Shelf as a fun game. I just couldn't quite put the pieces together.
I'm with you.
Okay, I thought, well, maybe I'm not, maybe I don't get it. Maybe I'm missing something as a parent. You know, and people will tell you, if you don't parent that way, you're going to have bad kids, or they're not going to learn rules and boundaries. And I'm like, well, it's a reward and punishment, I think, is what they're trying to say. They're not going to learn reward and punishment. And I'm like, I don't know, is that good or bad?
Well, I guess it's just, you know, that's subjective.
Yeah, it is, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was just one of those things where I guess, you know, again, it goes back to just parenting styles and creating your little tribe in your family.
Yeah. I guess, you know, my approach has always been, if you've, you know, misbehaved in some way, I would rather try and, you know, speak to you about it first.
Try that first. Yeah.
Right. And let's have you understand
everything
that goes on about that, and why and how and the effects, and instead of just, you know, using physical punishment.
Yeah, no, I agree totally. And I think that
which, hey, physical punishment worked on me when I was a kid. I think I got spanked, you know, maybe twice with the belt, and that was all I needed. I was like, okay, I'm gonna follow the rules.
Yeah, I mean, I
you know, but
yeah, I'm afraid to go down that rabbit hole, because I would have to talk about a lot of things that, for me, you know, that were painful experiences that really left marks inside my head. But I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe that, and it might be why I am the way I am, and I'm not. Violence is not my first. Violence. I know somebody's going to listen to this and go, "Well, that's spanking your kids, violence." But I mean, that literally is how my brain is wired now.
Right,
like,
I hear you. I
went, violence.
Yeah.
Is is that the answer?
The V word came in my head too,
yeah. Well, because it's a roll up. I guess I've always wondered why we. I don't know. I wonder if we're not beginning to adopt that again. It's a Wild West mentality. It's like, we're gonna go shoot each other in the streets. You know, like you and me. You know, high noon. Right. You know, and one of us is it's gonna go. It's happening. I never really cared for that when I was. Violence was always, to me, should have at least been maybe the fourth or fifth option if you've tried a lot of things, but diplomacy first. You know?
Right. I'm with you totally.
Yeah.
You know, I've always been a peaceful being.
Yeah. I can't say that I haven't been violent or maybe felt violence for sure. I mean, I struggle with those seeds like anybody else, I think, because it's a very easy solution.
It is.
Temporarily
It's a reactive,
feels good,
it's a reactive
I guess.
solution, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to jump back because I took us the long way around to this, but so you said you started with this loose figure drawing in January of this past year?
2018.
Okay.
Was it 2018? I'm really bad at, my memory's horrible. I think, yeah.
Okay, but it's not it's a fairly recent development
it is,
then.
yes.
Okay, because that's the only that's all I've been exposed to of your art.
Okay.
So take me kind of back, like is that do you see yourself shifting again, or is that something that this is an evolution, or is this just a stage in your...
I think it is probably an evolution.
Okay.
You know, and I think it will continue I'm sure it will continue to evolve.
Yeah.
As I evolve.
Yeah.
So right now, this is just what is happening with me, and it's almost unconscious. You know, this creation of art that I do, meaning that it just kind of happened, unfolded, came out, no thinking involved. I just started doing it. Now, it did evolve from you know, just kind of playing with line and stuff, but you know, where I've landed currently with it is an absolute direct reflection of, you know, my life and what my emotional state and consciousness is.
So what do you mean by that? Like, really explain that for me, because I love what you just said, and I think I'd like to hear what that means to you. How is it a reflection?
I have, as I said earlier, you know, being divorced 5 years or so ago, I was in that marriage for approximately 26 years. So I was a child.
That's a long marriage.
Yeah, I was a child when I was with this person.
Sure.
And, you know, 5 years ago, I find myself, I was a child in the relationship. Now I'm an adult in the relationship.
Sure.
And immense growth and evolvement through that time period, of course, right?
Yeah.
That's what happens. And, you know, a series of really awful things happened. And,
during your marriage?
Yeah. The latter part of the marriage. And I found myself questioning purpose, life, blah, blah, blah. I guess I never really figured out who I was sounds so cliche, who I was on my own as an adult, because I'd always been attached to this other person.
You're in relationship, right?
Yes,
yeah. Okay.
I made that growth period with another person. I don't know who I am individually by myself. What are my true passions when this person is not with me?
Yeah.
And so I committed to I keep thinking of the movie Eat, Pray, Love, but I committed to, you know, self-discovery and figuring out what am I really about, because I'm a deep thinker, you know. And so in doing that, I discovered that how afraid I was to be vulnerable with pretty much everyone.
Do you think that formed during the marriage? The fear of being vulnerable?
I think that came along with, you know, that whole childhood thing of just wanting to stay hidden, not be seen or heard.
Where does that come from, you think?
That happened just, you know, when I was a kid.
Just for no reason,
yeah, well,
or some things?
You know, my dad was in a job that required him to move every couple of years. So I was always changing schools.
And you moved with your... Okay, I got you. So relationships, you knew they were going to end. So, right, I mean, subconsciously.
I just found it hard to integrate myself again, over and over again.
Yeah.
And when I did that, I encountered resistance from my peers. And
well, you're forever the new girl.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you never really
you have to prove yourself, get involved, get connected, and then be gone.
Right.
All very
over,
quickly.
over and over again.
Yeah.
And you just get to a point where it's exhausting.
Yeah.
And it's emotionally draining, and it's easier to just stay hidden.
I think as people get older, I've heard in conversations I've had privately, people say that about relationships. They're like, I don't like dating. As I guess they get older, they don't like dating because they're like, I don't want to I don't want to have to go through all that. And if it doesn't work out, I've got yada, yada, yada. You know, it's like, I can see how that happens as a child where it creates
it's hard to keep putting yourself out there and being rejected. Rejection that's a tough one, especially when you're a kid, you know.
Yeah.
So,
and then in a marriage, a long marriage, I mean, and I say long, I mean, that's a healthy amount of years to be married. I mean, that in a way can become like a safety too, where you're like, well, I've got this person and they're always here.
Absolutely,
so I don't have to go out and reinvest, and I'm not the new girl anymore.
Absolutely,
I mean, I'm oversimplifying that, but
comfort level there.
So pulling away from that
overrode true fulfillment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much where this current series has evolved from, is just that emotional state of finding the strength to allow myself to be vulnerable in front of people. And that's why they're nude.
That's what I was about to say.
I mean, physically being nude in front of somebody is like the most vulnerable state of being, right?
Yeah.
And then to go deeper and let yourself be vulnerable emotionally, God, that's even harder, right?
Yeah. See, I think for me, it's probably the opposite.
Really?
Yeah, but I mean, because I've learned to be emote in front of people over time. I've found the value in that, of all things. That's probably, I don't know. I mean, because it's funny because I do art too. Yeah. And I'm an artist, I guess. I just never have called myself one. But I do art, and I mean, for some reason, I've never embraced it. But that other thing, being willing to be open and bleed in front of people, all that I don't have a problem with. What I find sometimes is I run a little hot in that regard for most people, that it's like, oh, yikes, he wants to go further than a handshake. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
I want to go further than the niceties of, hey, how's your day?
Absolutely.
Cool. Nice to see you. Things have been good. That stuff for me, I almost feel like a sense of frustration in myself when I am forced to kind of just do that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, this just isn't my skin to be this person where it's like the niceties. Right.
Yeah. Where you're having to like hold back your true self a little bit.
Yeah. I do it a lot too, because of my job. I do that quite often.
I totally get that. I am, naturally a very emotional, passionate, person. When I say emotional, I don't mean like, unstable or whatever.
No, I know what you mean. Not like I'm emotional,
I mean?
but like I actually you allow your emotions to come out and bloom.
I'm starting to again. So my experience when I was a kid, you were talking about being that way with people. There were a few times where I allowed myself to be, with my friends, just be this, like really just be open with my emotions about how I felt about our friendship. Like it meant a lot to me. And we were kids and then they were gone. Like, oof, that's like I scared them off. And it's happened to me a couple of times throughout my life where I used to say I made the mistake of being too open with somebody. Yeah. And it scared them off.
Sure. I get you.
But now I can be okay with they just weren't ready.
Sure.
They weren't ready to receive it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to diminish myself anymore. I'm going to allow myself to be this really deep emotional person that I am. because it's what feels good and it's who I am and it's real.
Yeah. No, I get it. I do. I get it because, I mean, I think another thing I find myself saying a lot is that I'm, when it comes to that, I'm a throw the anchor over the side of the boat type.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to throw my anchor into a person, but I have to get to that place where I feel safe to do that.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Now, when I get there, though, I'm in.
Yeah.
You know, and then the chain links are just going to keep on going until it hits the bottom. That's how I want. I don't want a shallow water relationship.
Deep connection. That's, I think that's what we all want, man.
Yeah.
But we're all just too scared.
Too scared. And, well, because, I mean, God, I mean, that's again, being vulnerable.
Right.
Where can somebody, who can hurt you the worst? I mean, somebody who knows you.
Yeah.
I mean, worse than somebody who doesn't know you. They can take your things and they can say things about you, but you can blow those things off when somebody doesn't know you. I mean, I don't hear it, but I know that there are things said that I just go, I don't care about that at all. But when I've let somebody in and they say something, then it's just, I don't know, they're closer to your heart.
Yeah. Well, you've let them in. You've let them
past the
see
ribcage,
the real you. And then they're like, no.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I worry about that with this show.
Yeah.
I do, because the show, I always think this, and this again, being vulnerable, but I have to say this to be vulnerable and truthfully back up what I believe. And that's this, is that I think sometimes, like a lot of my clients, they know me based on the relationship we have, which is through the work we do and some of the person that they know, but they don't really, not a lot of them don't really fully know me. They don't have the anchor in all the chain links and everything. So I always wonder, so what happens when one of my clients listens to this show and they start to go, that kid's got bees in his brain? Do you know what I mean?
I do. And I've got hair clients. I've got art clients that only know me as, you know, Lyd Walls. She does my hair. Lyd Walls, the artist. I got a painting from her. They don't know
who you
all
are.
This deep stuff that we're talking about.
But that stuff makes those things come out in the things you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Those same things that we're talking about here are what drive us in all these other little things we're doing, which makes it, whatever talent you have, it comes out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's like putting that out there, but it's weird how we don't mind taking the little fruit off the tree, but we don't want the tree. It's interesting too. I was thinking about trees a second ago when you were talking, and I wasn't spacing out, but you said something about you were talking about being in a marriage and forming. And it made me think of these two trees I have in my yard. And they've been, when we bought our house, I thought I had a crepe myrtle tree. We have a bunch of crepe myrtle trees. And there's one in my yard that every year I would go, that one just looks different. And so as the years passed, I finally realized I have a little oak tree growing in the exact same spot as this crepe myrtle tree. And they're all wound up together. But what's interesting is that as they both got bigger over the years, because, you know, we've been there a while, I've gotten to see them really kind of mature. I used to cut the oak tree out because I was like, well, it's not as pretty. Yeah. You know, I like the crepe. This is supposed to be a crepe myrtle tree, but it's not. It's a doggone crepe myrtle tree that's got an oak tree in it. And the oak tree's messing up my crepe myrtle tree. So I would cut it out, and then if I let it go, it would grow some more. But what's weird is when the crepe blooms, the oak tree is dead. And then when it's time for the oak tree to start getting its leaves, the crepe myrtle's dead. So they're not in the same sync seasonally. And it kind of made me think about the way a marriage can be, because those two trees were put together before they've matured.
They're not growing together.
Right. And then as they've gotten more mature, now they're completely out of sync. And those two trees really don't. Unfortunately, one or the other is going to have to go for one or the other to become the thing it's supposed to be, or they're never either going to be. I don't know. Just kind of a reflection I thought about this.
That's a great reflection. You know, it's a great reflection, and that's what needed to happen in my marriage in particular, and order for us to be our best selves, we needed to not be together.
Yeah.
You know, simple as that.
Yeah, married. I've been divorced, and I mean, it's easy in retrospect to just go, oh, it's very easy for me in retrospect to make a list of all the reasons that it didn't work.
Yeah.
That part's easy. But I've tried as I get older to not, I guess I want to remember, especially if you have children from that marriage, you know, I don't want those children to think that their life came from that negative list.
Correct.
Does it make sense?
Absolutely.
And so I try to sometimes, and it's rare, but sometimes go, oh, I remember when this with your mom, and it's a positive thing.
Yes.
Even though saying those things sometimes makes my skin crawl internally, I guess, if that's a thing.
Yeah.
But
I get it.
just so they know to some degree that they didn't just come from like this black ink well, you know, of
Sure.
negativity, because it didn't work. And yeah, because that's something I think I probably plant something in them that I don't know is growing if I'm not careful. I'm actually, I would say, even just divorce plants something in kids that
certainly
you
does.
Even if it's amicable, it still does something.
Yeah, that has to.
Yeah. Did you have children in there? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How many?
Two.
Are they?
My son's 22 and my daughter's 17.
Okay. Yeah. My oldest daughter's 20. So, yeah. I mean, I've seen she struggled with different things that I didn't have when I was a kid. That I'm like, it's just interesting. So I can't help but wonder if it didn't come from that place.
Right.
But I don't know. You know, there's no way to know. She's in her own head. I can't pick it out.
Yeah.
You know, my daughter's an artist too, and you know, it's the same thing with her. I guess art is an echo of what's going on inside of you in a lot of ways. How it just sort of a thing, this creativity comes out and makes a thing. And I mean, hearing you talk about that and the vulnerability of the nudes, I was like, that's interesting, because I would have, just looking at it as a consumer of your art, you just don't know that.
Right.
It makes it more valuable when you know.
Yeah.
I think it does.
Yeah, I think so.
You know, when you look at the ink and you look at the paint or whatever it may be, and you're like, this is more than just something hanging on my wall.
Right.
You know, this came from,
Yeah.
it's just somebody's expression.
Yeah.
Do you ever share that with any of your clients?
You know, there's doing, you know, art shows or markets or whatever. The conversation comes up, and you know, I'll talk about it. You got to feel those people out, though. You know, not everybody wants to get deep and dark with your conversation.
Sure.
Some people just, you know, just like it because it matches their couch or whatever. And I'm cool with that.
Right. That's what I was going to ask you. Like the different tiers, the levels of immersion with your clients.
Yeah.
I mean, is it all over the spectrum?
Yeah, pretty much.
What's your typical? I mean, do you have a typical, like, this is kind of my sweet spot as far as clients go?
I would say probably between 30 and 60 professionals.
Okay.
Who's basically attracted to my art.
Yeah. And did that develop over time? Did you start to kind of say, oh, I'm seeing a pattern here?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, you put yourself out there and you're trying to figure out where your niche is, because not everybody likes all, you know, I mean, I'm received better in Lafayette than I am here in Lake Charles.
Why do you think that is?
I think Lake Charles just has this real strong sense of tradition and culture, and they love seeing that in their art. You know, my art's abstract. It's kind of nondescript. And
I see what you're saying. Like,
know,
crawfish and crabs and birds and
you know,
bridges,
and they love
right?
that. And you know, the Lake Charles scenery. And I mean, I absolutely respect that. You know, it's just not what I do.
Oh.
So, I'm not that well received here.
You're well known here, but not your art.
I don't even know that I'm well known.
Really? Online? I see like
you know,
a lot
I have
of
my
people.
little following.
Yeah.
That I'm, you know, appreciative of, but you know, I don't know. I do better outside of Lake Charles.
It's interesting. You're not the first person to say that, though.
Yeah.
Even people who do the more traditional local culture type pieces still kind of run into that. That outside of the market, the Lake Charles market, that they're more well received.
I think maybe we were late to jump on the art bandwagon, you know, and we're just now, it feels like it. I've been in the scene for about 10 years. I know there's other veteran artists out there who could probably speak to this a little bit better, but it feels like to me that we're starting to become more art conscious,
sure,
you know, in the community, and you know, it's starting to be something that people want to see more of and see the diversity that's out there.
What do you think, on that note, is making it change?
I think the younger generation just is, you know, hip to that.
Yeah.
I think, you know, they dig all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. There's the organizations in our community really do seem like they're trying to diversify.
I mean, that's it. You know, I think more and more events, the artists are invited to, you know, every single event that Lake Charles puts on. And so all that exposure is really letting people see that there's a lot of talent in this little area.
Yeah.
And that they maybe weren't aware of before.
Yeah, I had an idea. This is a crazy idea, but the other day, I don't know what, I saw somebody, what's the hot dog shop in Lake Charles? Botsky's, yeah. I never get to go there, but they have such cool stuff. And I thought, you know, it'd be cool is to like have all the local artists that people know of and do a whole menu called Art Dogs. And like, they design the dog, based on flavor with obviously the Botsky's team, but like they're actually done to like look a certain way. You know what I mean? Like by using like different ingredients and stuff, and just have like, this would be each person's like, you know, limited menu.
What a cool
Art Dogs.
Concept.
I don't know. I was thinking that could be kind of funny, and then I threw it away. I was like, who knows? Hey, if they're listening, maybe they'll do something like that. But just some ways to kind of tie things, because it's hard to tie. That's kind of something the connective tissue, I guess, is something I think that's still kind of forming, like all the little sinews and veins between these different things that are all considered creative, because and even just in the layouts of the areas where we're typically presenting art and creative things, I feel like I go, okay, you can sense the connective tissue in certain places or between certain businesses and artists, but then you can feel where it breaks apart too. And I was just kind of meditating on ideas where it's like, how can you connect more things together? Because I brought it up with Ben. There was Vision and Verse, I think, years ago, where it was like a poem with a painting or a song.
Cool concept.
I love that kind of stuff where it's two things. And I thought, those things go well together, art and music. Okay, it's like the low-hanging fruit to some degree. And I thought, well, what other things are creative though that you could marry together to create more, I don't know, partnerships in strange ways?
Yeah, cool concept.
Yeah, I don't know what those things are, but it would be cool to do some different things like that. Sure. Something just kind of wacky. Yeah. Where you're like, oh, I never really put those two things together.
I love that.
You know, like a lid wall hot dog.
I could definitely make some boobs somehow.
I mean, you are doing the male nudes now. I mean, I did notice that the other day.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. Just I think that kind of stuff. I definitely think you're right. It's definitely changing. It's just still kind of a slow burn. Yeah. You know, which isn't a bad thing necessarily.
Yeah. No. However, it needs to be. It's cool.
I just think it's gonna have to be. And I hate to use this word because it sounds so nasty, but it's a word I fear with a lot of things is incest. And I can sometimes feel the incest when I go to events and what I mean by that, and I need to clarify what I mean by that, but I had this sense one time when I go out and film a lot of events. And so when you're filming it, you're in a strange observer mode because you're not really there. I tend to go back and explain the event differently than somebody who was actually there. Gotcha. Because I'm watching it, I call it angle chasing. I'm trying to tell a story. So I'm looking, I don't know, just a different world. Yeah, kind of like people say if you're in a horror movie and you're looking through a camera, you don't feel as scared. Right. It's that feeling of being an event. But as an observer and you're filming the angles, I would come back and process the footage and you start to go, I've got footage of this artist, and then I go to this event and I got that same footage of the same artist and the same footage of the same artist. And after a while, I started kind of going, well, okay, after filming 20 events, you start to see the greatest hits, so to speak. And I'm not belittling anybody. I want to be clear about that. But what I fear is it becomes less impactful in a sense because people have been exposed to it. And they're going, well, I don't have to go to this event because I can go to any event and I'm going to be able to get that.
Right.
And I think maybe, and I might be wrong, that might even have something to do with why some artists are doing better out of the area. You know,
so.
You know, we're so excited to have events in our area that everybody, the same sort of, we're only so big. I think it's mostly local people that we're bringing to these events. You're kind of exposed to it. You've seen it.
Right.
Doesn't mean it's bad.
No, and you're right. I mean, and it's pretty much, you know, the same artists at all the events, which is totally cool. But there are so many artists in Lake Charles who don't do any events that are absolutely amazing.
Right.
And what I am trying to do, it's just a thought process at this point, but I would love to have some sort of regular pop-up art venue where all of us artists can get together in a designated space on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And
wasn't there a group though? I think we may have cut it out of that episode with Denisha Harger. She was talking about, it was SWLA Art.
Yeah. You know, I don't know why that fizzled out.
I wasn't sure if it was still out there or not. I wasn't.
Yeah, it's, as far as, I mean, we used to have regular meetings, but we haven't in a while. Yeah, I don't know, just, you know, just not like an organized group.
Yeah.
But an organized regular pop-up event.
Yeah, I gotcha.
That whoever could participate in, or whoever wanted to participate in, could come freely and participate with no other commitments whatsoever, no fees.
Yeah.
And just do their thing. Yeah. And have it be like a cool thing that people in the community could go check out.
Yeah,
you know?
no, I get you. My buddy Darren, he and man, I wish I could remember his Instagram handle now. I can't. Off the top of my head, I'll put a link in the podcast, but he does art in the parks on Sundays, and it's just him, and he basically brings all of his art supplies and his sketch materials. Yeah, he goes out to Prairie Lake Park every Sunday between the hours of like 2 and 5 or something like that.
Well, that's
and he
awesome.
just invites kids, whoever wants to come up and can just draw. He calls it just, I think, I can't remember, it's like eat, think, draw, something like that. I can't remember. God, he's going to kill me. I really should know this better. But anyway, yeah, it's just something he does. And I think he's like, sometimes nobody comes and it's just him. And sometimes people will walk up and just will draw. And I was like, that's pretty cool.
That's great.
In a way, it's kind of makes me think of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like just hey, let's just throw it together. You know, I actually think that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's so easy to put an event together now with Facebook and events. Right. You can just create an identity. And,
right. Yeah. And I don't know. I feel like the artists don't get that many opportunities to get out there and put their stuff out, you know?
Yeah.
All our surrounding communities have these, you know, monthly art markets. And we don't get that many chances to do that. We have to, you know, we're limited to our local events.
Yeah.
Here. So I would like something to happen more often so that we could have greater opportunity.
I do like the way that Rouge et Blanc handled the live painting, and that to me is a cool element. Not just coming out to present your art, but to actually see it made.
Yeah, that was cool. It was only my second time live painting.
Really?
Yeah, and that was a fun experience. I was, you know, pretty hesitant. Obviously, of course, from our earlier conversation about, you know, not wanting to be seen and heard, but that was, you know, when I was asked to do that, my gut reaction was like, oh, no.
Because of the people watching.
Oh, yeah. And I especially really get anxious when people watch me paint. I do not like it at all. And it definitely inhibits my flow and my creativity. But I did it anyway. Yeah.
That's good experience, though. I used to airbrush, And when I first started doing it, it's sad because I had always wanted to do it. And I had someone training me to do it and teaching me the basics, the Mr. Miyagi wax on, wax off skills I needed to get the muscle memory. And I really got pretty good at it. And then it was when I found out that the real way to make a living doing it was to go paint at festivals and events. And probably the first dozen times I had real stage fright. I mean, because people want to watch. I didn't realize what I was getting into. It's like, it's not just the quality of the art, it's the gimmick of watching. I hate to say gimmick, it's probably not but it was the latch. That was what people caught on to. Right. They're like, oh, I want to see and hear the sound. And I was like, man, I don't like this. All the especially at festivals, because people's inhibitions, as the nights would go on, they'd drink more and they get closer and closer. And I can remember particularly being at this one festival, and there was a lady who had plenty to drink at that festival, and she was right on me while I was painting, like telling me how to paint. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I really didn't know, because all my social anxieties kicking in, and it's this crowd of people standing around like you're a juggler. You know, it's a very strange feeling. But yeah, I get what you're talking about. But I eventually wore off doing that after a while, you know, settled into it.
Yeah, the more I do it, the easier it gets. And I will continue to do more if I'm asked. So
yeah, well, I think it's pretty cool. I mean, you know, again, that kind of gets back to seeing it painted. I don't know, you feel like you're more connected to the art in some way.
Maybe so.
I guess. I mean, you're there to witness it being made.
Yeah, maybe so.
I don't know. Maybe. Well, I want to get you to the part of the show called Fishing for Goodies.
Okay.
You see that fish bowl over there?
Okay.
Will you grab it?
All right.
All right. We've got these are questions that some of them I've put in here, but some of them people who listen to the show have put in here.
Okay.
And so what I get everybody to do is to basically reach in, pick 3 of them out, and then I'm going to read them to you and we'll discuss them.
Okay.
But I don't know what they are, so you pick 3.
Okay.
They're like little fortunes. No, they're not fortunes. They're questions, but... You know what's strange, though? The last few times we've done this, or maybe even the last 4, people have actually... There's a lot of questions in there, and they've drawn the same questions. Man, some of these, yeah. And there's a lot of questions in there. Okay. Well, these are good. This one hasn't been asked yet, so I'm going to start with it.
Okay.
Business and peace, money and love, stuff and happiness. Can these things work in harmony?
Absolutely. I totally believe that. It's a mindset thing.
Yeah?
It's consciousness, yeah.
How do you see that playing out in your life? I mean, being in a creative kind of industry, there is always that balance of we have to be creative, but it's also monetized. What is that like with your art? I mean, is there ever that... Can you tell me a time when that like came into play and it was any kind of a conflict there, or was it...
Well, let's see.
Like, how did you begin? Because, I mean, I'm sure it sounds like from talking to you that the art sort of came from discovering yourself.
Yeah.
When it's married to all these real intimate things on the inside, how do you begin to put a price tag on it? And where does that change, you know, from where you started to now?
I don't know. That's a tough one to answer. I guess you just have to value yourself.
Value, yeah.
You got to value yourself, you know. You got to believe in what you're doing, and you have to know that what you're doing is, you know, it's providing good for somebody. And I guess it's kind of like, well, how does art provide good for somebody? But in my case, I would like to think that if they're connecting with it in any way, they're at some point connecting with themselves and hopefully making some deep discoveries about themselves that will help them be better and have a better life.
I get that. I do. And so the value comes from more than just it hanging on a wall and matching with.
Yeah, I hope so.
The kitchen, or the dining room or the office.
Yeah,
I get that. I see what you mean. I would hope that too. I think with anything you make that there's a longer, a deeper meaning there.
I believe with, creativity, there's a reason why we came onto this earth with creativity. There's a reason why we need to share it. It's got to be for a greater purpose, whether it's recognizable or not.
Yeah.
It's got to be. I mean, why do we have it? Why do we have the talent if we're not supposed to use it in some way?
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. I think that's something I've felt since I was a young child, that there was like a... the word is lame, but I mean, I've always called it a force, a creative force, and it wants to manifest. Like,
Absolutely.
It's very apparent to me that it is manifesting. It's not dead, it's living. It appears all throughout everything. I mean, I don't know, I'm always fascinated to look at the small pieces, like little molecules, or the other day I was looking at pictures of the way music forms shapes in water.
Oh yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah,
man,
and you see it's art. I mean, I'm going just the sound itself. It kind of goes back to what I was saying: hot dogs and paintings. How can you make these things go together? Here's a cup of water and a sound, and they make art. So it's like it's constantly reiterating to us: see me, I'm making. See me, I'm making. And then here we are being. I see us as a manifestation of that force, and then we make, and we can affect change, and what it pours out. So I think when you're creating, in a way, you're just really honoring that, and you're allowing it to flow better and truer, I guess, to some degree.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's difficult to do all the time. It's easy to shut it off too.
Oh yeah, too easy.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably where my biggest tug of war internally comes from, is the pull between the part of the world that says just don't do that, just stay busy, here's how you survive, you need this XYZ, do this stuff this time, here's how, don't change, versus the side of me that says go out there and just get in, take your shoes off, and just wander off and look at things and appreciate the beauty and stuff, and it takes a minute and it's not on a clock, and that's where that's where the rubber band gets pulled pretty tight.
Yeah, I think that happens for a lot of most people. We tend to not honoring the soul is just become like taboo kind of thing. Like we're not supposed to do it. There's, we've got to take care of our families. We've got to go to work. We've got to, make life happen, and honoring your soul is hippie woo-woo stuff, and doesn't really serve a purpose. And
no, I totally agree.
The point.
Totally. And I guess this is another thing that I think maybe I privately I talk about, but it's I don't say it too much, because I do have a business, and I fear what the reaction would be. But it's just the economics of things. Many of our religious texts will tell us that money's the root of all evil, and even Christianity, you can't serve God and mammon. I mean, we can say that simply and then blow on past it, and then get back to business. But why is it there? There's a secret there, telling us something that I don't know, for me, it's like really and truly, where's that original mistake? I think the original mistake is, for a lot of us, is just the monetization of life. It's like everything is compartmentalized and given a value, a dollar value, and not a soul value or a spiritual value.
Correct.
And we give more credit to that one. And this stuff, like you said, is drippy hippie. It's soft, and that's a cool idea. But ultimately, you got to get to work. And I'm like, I'm not naive to that. I get it. But what would happen if more of us went that other direction? and did give more credence to that other side to life, then perhaps that poison would lose its grip on us, because I think it's got a grip on everything.
Absolutely, it does.
The whole world.
Absolutely, it does. Yeah, we're decisions are made based on money instead of people.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to see.
Yeah.
We were just talking about this at home, and I tried not to go down that hole because I know where I'll go with it. I can slide down that hole pretty easy, but I was taking blood pressure medicine, and I kept telling my wife, I said, my blood pressure medicine doesn't make me feel good. I feel terrible every time I take it. I feel bad, worse. And I'm not even really sure it's helping me, honestly. I mean, my blood pressure is going down, but I think it's because of my diet, honestly.
Yeah.
And so I'm reading my news feed, and then it says, 4 more blood pressure medicines are added to the cancer causing list, or whatever. And I read them. I'm like, oh, well, my blood pressure medicine's on that list. And I mean, I told my wife, I said, hey, look, I said, I'm not taking that medicine. It's on the list, carcinogens and all this stuff. And she's like, why do you think they can do that? Why do you think they do that? And I was like, the answer's really super simple.
Yep.
And it's just money.
Yep.
Just the end. That's all it is. It's not about lowering people's blood pressure doing like
That's
some
right.
altruistic thing to just save
Absolutely.
people from high blood pressure. It's just literally just plain answer is just money. And I mean, there's so many things out there like that.
It's almost everything.
It's almost everything, right? Right. I mean, look, I can't be a hypocrite. Even this podcast, here I am talking about this stuff, but somewhere in the middle of this podcast, I'm going to stick an ad for my business.
Yeah.
Because I have to do what everybody else does.
Right. Yeah. Well, we got to make a living.
But it's again, where's the balance at in that to do what's right and then make a living and do what's good for...
Well, yeah, you do what's right, you make a living, and we are maintaining our integrity, we're maintaining our compassion, and we're maintaining our generosity in the process.
That's what we can hope to do, yeah.
And do good with the money. Not saying you can't, enjoy your life with it, but choosing money over people is never okay.
I agree. I totally agree with that. It's never okay. Now we can tell ourselves it's okay. We'll make concessions. But if we're going home at night and really looking in the mirror, it's not okay. It's just not. It's never okay. Whenever it's really put to you, the answer should always be people.
Always.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. That's a good question. All right. So there's a second one. I got 2 of them. I'm going to have to pick one of these. Let's see which one. What tests your patience?
Oof.
Is there a lot?
No, not a lot.
Not a lot. Is there just a little?
Yeah. People who play the victim role.
What do you mean by that? Like an example of that?
I used to be one of those people. Everybody was against me. Why do I always have bad luck? Why do bad things always happen to me? Why is this person doing this to me? I never, ever looked in the mirror and said, what am I doing?
I got you. How am I playing my own part in this? Yeah.
Yeah. Complaining about a situation over and over and over again and not doing anything to get themselves out of it or change it.
I can say I'm guilty, definitely, of being that way in many, many situations. I'm not a big fan of cyclical problems when it's just cyclical and you're going, man, this just keeps happening over and over again. That's when, if it's just happening and I'm in the equation, it's probably something I'm doing or haven't changed.
There's a common denominator.
Yeah, I'm the common denominator.
Yeah.
Now, that type of thinking sometimes can drive me into a place where I don't have such a great view of myself because I can get caught in those things that I keep telling myself, I keep doing this, I keep doing that.
For sure.
But I think the struggle is worth, you got to start arm wrestling with that stuff, right?
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, I can see how that would be something that would test your patience. It tests mine too, because and I'm going to say the word I, but it's one of my dirty words. As I say it, I'm aware that it's the word I for me has become like a dirty word, because I start to, it goes into what you're saying, I guess, is it's the language of the ego.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the, well, this happens to me, and the world, it's almost like you're the center of your own little solar system.
Yeah.
And everybody else just playing a role. It's kind of, I guess, narcissistic in a way, you know. And I think that maybe the world's even breeding more and more of that. Mm-hmm. Look at me, it's my world, it's my perspective. And I'm not saying you shouldn't take care of yourself, you know, but I think sometimes the self can almost be very poisonous, you know.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, there's a difference between self-care and self-indulgence.
Yeah. And then indulging at other people's expense.
Right. Definitely.
Yeah, I have this, and I don't know. Again, it's a belief. I can't tell you where it comes from, but I have this another force, so to speak, that I tend to feel about something. Boy, I'm stepping all over myself because this is a weird one for me to talk about, but it's this force of checks and balances. Mm-hmm. And I think that any time there's an indulgence of any kind, it comes from somewhere.
Yeah.
It has to be taken from somewhere else. Nothing, just from a very blanket scientific statement, there's no new matter created or destroyed. Right. We have nothing new entering into the scene.
Yes.
So every energy comes from some other place. And I believe even spiritual energies are like that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, like if you're taking something for yourself, it may not be apparent to us, but it's coming from somewhere. Something else it has to be taken from. When I think about that, I tend to think of that when I get a blessing of some sort. Mm-hmm. I think it's easy to go, oh, I just received this blessing. And then when I really meditate on it, I'm like, well, where did this come from, this blessing? I mean, it had to be drawn from somewhere else because there's nothing new. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. It makes sense to me. Go ahead.
I don't know. I just wonder about that when it comes to, I guess that getting back to your original point about being the victim, it's easy to forget that when you're playing the victim and being the center of your own universe, it's like easy to forget, like, okay, but I'm drawing this stuff from somewhere else.
Correct.
You know, and so you're not really a victim at all.
You're kind of unaware.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. I don't know if it makes any sense.
Yeah. It does make sense. It makes sense to me in the fact that I believe our souls individually all have a purpose on this earth, and whichever path it feels like it needs to take, it draws those circumstances to you so that you can experience that. And and take whatever you're going to take from it and, you know, move on.
Yeah.
So if you're, so for instance, like when I was the victim, being the victim all those years in my 20s and teens, I guess my soul was just like, you are not getting it. And it kept bringing me these circumstances that I interpreted as, this is happening to me, because the universe was just like, dude, when you gonna get it? Like, I'm gonna keep hitting you with this until you start thinking differently about it. And that's just how I interpret it. It may sound like
no
woo woo to
I don't think it does
most people, but that's I truly believe our souls have a purpose,
something to do
on this earth. Yes.
Yeah, I kind of feel in a very similar way. I mean, the way I process that sometimes, it's almost like, and I guess for all intents and purposes, it's probably the true meaning of what karma is. Because I think a lot of times when we say karma, people use it as a replacement for the word luck, you know, or justice. You know, you did something bad, so something bad's going to happen to you. You did something good, you're going to get a reward. But when you really read about karma, if you believe in karma, that it's really more just it's the result of an action.
Yeah.
So by that regard, like I am still playing out my father's karma, because my father lived his life and he did the actions he took in his life affected mine. Well, if I want better karma, I have to be aware of his karma,
right,
and take it and kind of go, okay, well, now based on those actions and becoming aware, right, and saying, well, maybe these caused some pains, or maybe it's left things in me. Well, how can I recycle that and then turn those into better actions?
Yeah.
And create better karma. It's not I'm going to get a reward or a punishment, but there will be an effect because I've done that. So I think in that regard,
it's kind experience for you.
So it's kind of like what you're saying in a way. You take it and you're going, well, all these history of all this karma. We're all playing out all of our karma together. Yes. In a way, it's kind of what we originally were talking about, the sentiment in the world right now, the negativity. We're rolling in. We're taking all this negative karma and we're sort of regurgitating it. And if we have to choose to say, hey, I don't want this karma anymore.
Exactly.
You know, I got to take this energy and redirect it and maybe transform it so there's better karma for people after me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, I think I get what you're saying. I don't know if that's the same thing or if we're kind of talking. Yeah, what you
explained just now, that's exactly what, that hit it.
It's beautiful to me to think about that, actually, because then you can, and sometimes I think it's just
leaves room for hope.
It does leave room for hope, right? You can look at your whole timeline and pains that have come in your family's history, maybe, or anything that's broken gets healed in that process.
Yeah.
As long as we are active participants in it, you can pick all the shattered little pieces and make something new out of that.
Absolutely.
Okay, this is the last question. This might be the same kind of question, actually. It's similar. It says, what type of people scare you?
What type of people scare me? People that are not being real. Because I'm an introvert, but I really like people. Mm-hmm. And I easily connect with people, like I'm looking for a way to connect with you, and I will find the tiniest little thing to get in. And so if you're not being real, and I find a way in, and then I've realized later after I'm in that it's not
a safe space at all.
It's not a safe space. It's not what I expected. It's not true. Man, that's a bummer.
Yeah. I get that too.
Because I will stick it out.
Yeah.
I find myself wanting to stick it out for them.
Yeah, okay.
Like I will try and please you and make you happy. I'm a people pleaser. Simple.
Are you?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you still to this day? Have you always been
better.
That way?
I'm getting better. One of my favorite quotes is, and it really changed my life and my perspective, is betrayal of oneself. Betrayal of another in order not to betray yourself is betrayal nonetheless. It is the highest form. And when I read that, I was like, wow. And so that stays with me every day, and I am better at not being a people pleaser at the detriment to my own well-being.
Yeah, I understand.
There's a difference there than,
yeah.
Make chocolate ice cream for somebody because they love chocolate. Like, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
You know where I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I do. I was a people pleaser for many, many years. I'd say that's probably left years ago when I went through a divorce. It was the same thing. I mean, I had to, again, you try to find yourself, like, who am I now?
Yeah.
And I had definite people pleasing tendencies.
Yeah.
It came from probably value, again, self-value. I thought other people were better or more important, and I say that, but deep down inside, I knew that I had value. So I internally raged against it, but externally was too afraid to actually stand out or be myself and do something that was more true to me, I would bend and shift for others more than anything. Yeah. I know what you mean. And then the thing about people not being real, that's interesting for me because I'm very apprehensive. Shockingly, I mean, I am very apprehensive.
You're slow to let people in?
Well, I mean, I guess on one hand, yeah, but like sitting here, I mean, I would tell you anything. I mean, more than anything, I'm probably more aware of the recording device, to be honest with you, because I go, how far do I want to go? Because I know other people are going to listen. Now, if this wasn't on, I may go even further than we're going to go. It's just it's just a little veneer that's there, and I'd love to watch it fall apart. But I guess to the original point, now with people, just like you, I prefer it to be real, and I can almost, and again, I don't want to sound this in a boasting way, but it's just something that happens. I'm pretty good at telling when somebody's not.
Yeah.
And I don't like wasting my time on that. And I do feel forced to sometimes, and I don't like it.
Right.
I'm like, I don't like this. They're fake. I don't want to do this. I don't have the energy to... They're not interested in showing me who they are even a little bit. This is all just a show.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. And that's why it's hard to sell me anything.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm a terror. I have to convince myself that something's going to work before I can do it. Ads don't work on me too well.
Yeah.
Promotions, none of that stuff.
I get that.
I don't know, because I just immediately have apprehension. I don't know. And I guess maybe being in advertising is part of that too. Yeah. You know, because that's what we do to some degree. So you get to, you're making a slick image or a slick message, but on the underside, there's all this stuff that you're aware of, you know, that the public isn't. And not that they're bad things, but it's just, you know, I don't know. I don't know what that is. And maybe that is why I'm apprehensive. I don't know. But I am very apprehensive. Like I can tell when something's, I call it just like pings are just going off in my brain about somebody. I'm like, this is not a safe relationship.
Yeah, you've got your intuition going good. You trust in your gut.
Well, and then when you sit at a table like this enough times, one-on-one, getting to know people, you the first 30 minutes or so is figuring that person out. What's I don't know, warming up, so to speak. So you start to pick up on little things about people. And then I find that I prefer this type of thing so much that when somebody's not doing it, I almost feel like they got something to hide. And it's a strange thing. It's like you're hiding something for some reason. Why are you doing that? What is it? You know, the curiosity gets the best of me. Well, those are all pretty good questions. I think those are... I'm always interested to see what comes out of that fishbowl.
Yeah, they were good. I was a little nervous about that, but those were all right.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything in there. I don't know, honestly. I keep waiting for something. It's strange. I think there's like 100 questions in there. And even some of these are some of the same ones. I thought out of 100 questions, surely everyone will draw something different. And, you know, listeners text me messages to put in there sometimes. So I'm always... I'm
going to have to come up with some questions.
Please do. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping everybody will do is just send me questions. I mean, because everybody's got their own get to know you questions, you know. Sure. I've got mine, but there's things that some people have sent me and I go, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
You know, and some of them are just fun. You know,
absolutely.
Just fun little personal exercises, you know, things hadn't asked ourselves. Because, I mean, I don't know if I've ever sat down and asked myself that question, who scares me?
Maybe you need to go through that fishbowl.
Well, sure. I mean, the word scares, apprehension's one thing, but being scared of somebody.
Yeah, well, apprehension's just a lower form of fear,
right? Yeah, right on. Yeah. I'd say who really scares me, though, are I think violent people.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's really, when I'm at a store or something and I see somebody's reaction to maybe
someone being squirrely or sketchy, you're just
especially if I see somebody really getting heated, like if their food wasn't made right or something, and they're like really making a scene or something, and it's escalating.
Yeah.
I just always think that's an inappropriate reaction to what it's really going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like there's something else under the surface, and I'm like, this could potentially go further because there's something else driving this.
For sure.
You know, I lived with somebody who was like that, who was volatile, and it makes you fear mistakes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, because you're going,
absolutely.
everything's a trigger, potentially anything from getting the wrong change back to my hamburger has cheese on it, or you know, whatever it may be, and you're going, everything's a battle, everything's a fight.
Oh, wow.
You know, that's not a good way to live.
Yeah.
It's so when you engage the world that way, I mean, every encounter is potentially a fight. That's kind of a miserable way.
It is
to
a
be.
miserable existence. I mean, that's just, oh, wow.
Well, I got one more question for you, and I it's something recent that you posted, and it was that you were just now, and we talked about earlier when we were talking about the food art. So you just started doing male nudes.
Yeah.
So you weren't, and now
I
you
wasn't.
are. So is there a reason why you weren't, or was it just a personal?
There wasn't, I didn't consciously say I am not doing male nudes.
Yeah.
So my art is just an expression of myself.
Okay.
I'm a female. That's all. It's as simple as that.
Sure.
Yeah. I had recently, over the last 6 or 8 months, I've been asked numerous, on occasion, do I do males? And I didn't say no, and I kept saying to myself, well, I just need to, you know, I need to try that out. So I had some time this past week or last week, whenever it was. So I just did a little thing with no expectation, thinking I was going to fail at it, but they actually came out pretty good. So.
Yeah. Was it for a particular client, or you were just doing it to try?
I was just doing it to do it.
Do you do commissions?
I do.
You do? Okay. How does that work? Because I mean, your art is abstract, yeah?
Yes.
So how does a commission work in the abstract world? I mean, because I've never done anything like that.
Well, before these nudes, I was like really abstract, meaning there was no visible, recognizable image
Gotcha.
in my work. It was just movement, color, texture. And so, you know, people who like my work would just say, you know, I need, you know, I want some texture. I need these colors. It needs to fit in this space. It's pretty simple. I find now that I have moved into some identifiable semi-images in my work that I'm getting a larger fan base.
Yeah.
And people are responding more to my work. I guess people need something that they can identify with and recognize.
I got you.
You know, that's all I can make of it.
No, I get it. Have you thought about, I mean, I'm just curious. I know you were talking about those cultural pieces. Mm-hmm. Have you done anything like that where you've done an abstract cultural piece?
I did. I did an abstract, it was kind of a swamp scene or a bayou scene, which didn't look like a bayou at all, but it was just representative of the light reflection and the colors and maybe the landscape lines. And it was actually a commission for someone, and I got the color palette completely wrong. And so I was like, okay, future note to myself, make a color palette first to let them choose the colors. So lesson learned. I ended up putting that in an auction, and it was bid on at a really good price.
Oh, good.
So some people are proudly hanging in their home, so I'm super grateful.
Yeah, that is good. I was just wondering, I mean, seems like you could go anywhere with that. I mean, and allow if you point your creativity towards the subject, I mean, you could just allow it to unfold in that direction.
I mean, I guess I often have said to myself, can you do, you know, maybe a fleur-de-lis or whatever that would be attractive to more people here. I can't.
Just
can't
not
do it.
there.
It's not there. It's not genuine. It's not what I do.
Yeah.
It's for the wrong reason.
No, I understand.
And so I don't do it.
No, makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's got their own way, and you're just being true to the way that you're wired, which is better. It's going to make for a better...
Absolutely. It's going to make for a better piece of art, and it's going to be received better.
So you do hair.
I do hair.
And you do art. Do you ever see a day where you just do art?
Yep.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. That's coming?
It's coming.
Yeah, just leaning into it more and more.
Yeah. Yep. Already working on it.
Yeah.
It's already coming to fruition.
All your hair people are going to be sad.
Yeah, they're not happy, but I told them I'll find them someone good.
Yeah, because I know my wife, she's one of her dear friends has been doing her hair forever, and I can't even imagine if her friend said, I'm just not doing hair anymore, because I mean, it's a relationship.
It is. It's hard to find somebody good to do your hair.
Yeah, once you find somebody you trust.
Yeah,
so it's
right. Yeah, because it's more than just, having someone who can do your hair good. You have to develop this connection, and it's so weird because in my 25 years of doing hair, people just they stop coming to me, and it's not because of I did good hair or bad hair. It's because we just didn't connect.
Sure.
And they're sitting for 2 hours in my chair, and when you don't connect with somebody, it's not comfortable. It's not a comfortable space.
I always think about that. I didn't expect this to come up, but I mean, it's a big part of what you do. And I mean, I wonder about that sometimes as a man. I try to think of things that maybe as men that we have that are like that, because when my wife goes to have her hair done, I mean, I actually... Yeah, I know she's getting her hair done. Yeah, that's the thing. But I always know that there's more going on there, that she's having conversations, and that there's a relationship there. And I guess I've just wondered sometimes, like, what do we as men have that I could compare that to? And I couldn't quite think of anything.
Yeah.
That we have.
Yeah, I don't know. Men are a little bit different than women. They're not as emotionally driven,
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I don't mean that offensive in any way.
It's not offensive. I mean, I would say as a broad stroke, it's true.
I think men can just go in and sit and just, this is what's happening, and that's all that needs to happen, and let's just get it done, and then I'm out.
Yeah.
Whereas the women, they like to, I don't know, they like to have that connection.
Salon stories. Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, I know from just the years of, it's definitely a part of her life, and it's just, I don't know, it's something she looks forward to.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of anything. I mean, it was something I just kind of wondered about one day, and I thought, man, I don't have anything like that where I could go do whatever it may be, whatever the service is, where I'm going to sit and visit while the service is being done. Right. And there's a relationship there. I guess if I had some kind of like a fancy beard with, like that a barber trimmed up and made, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? That kind of thing. But barbershop talk, I guess a long time ago, men really had that more.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Sitting in the barbershop. Yeah. But I don't know that that's the thing anymore.
I don't think so.
I don't know. Just interesting. So I guess in a way, if with with you leaning towards the art world, and that eventually being on the horizon of that part of your life being sort of over, will you miss those relationships, or do you just see that evolving in a new way?
I'm sure I will. I'm sure I'll miss those relationships, but the sense of knowing how fulfilling it's going to be for me to move in the direction of art full time and making a living at it, it surpasses everything else by far. It's my passion, and that's all I need. Yeah, well, I mean, it's something that I think everybody who does art dreams of, right? Yeah. I mean, eventually just doing that. Ben, I was talking to Ben, and I asked him to ask you the same question. What's it like being with somebody else who does art? I mean, y'all are both artists. Yeah, well, this is the first time I've been in a relationship with another artist, and it's really great. We just did Holiday Market together. Yeah. But, we definitely, connect on a deeper level, I think, because we have that in common. And I think, as I said at the beginning of the show, creatives, I think, are just naturally more emotional people. I think we kind of have this, greater passion for life in general. And to be with somebody who shares that same passion, it's really great. It's, I've never experienced it before. So, yeah. it's an awesome thing to connect with somebody in that way.
I bet. Yeah, absolutely. You know, my wife and I, we both, I guess in a way, we work in the same business together, but before we met, we were both doing a similar job. It was, you know, graphics design and things like that, which, I mean, it's creative. I mean, it's some art in that profession. And so it was nice to be with somebody that understood that world. And, you know, when we talk, there's not a learning curve,
right,
so to speak, I guess. You know, she knows what I'm talking about when it comes to something and related to the field. And so, yeah, I like that, honestly, a lot. It takes a lot of things out of the way, because what we do, you know, all our hobbies or whatever it may be, I mean, it's important that you don't have to re-explain that, or that you have to spend a lot of your time explaining it to the other person before you can really connect on it.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, as far as how people find you and get in touch with you, what's the best way for people who want to see your art, communicate with you, and or hire you for a commission or a show or whatever? How do they find you?
Yeah, social media is probably the best way. So Facebook and Instagram, Lyd Walls Art. It's all the same.
LYD?
LYD. WALLS. And I do have a web page, but I am so bad about keeping that updated. And honestly, I get no hits on my...
Really?
Like any connections I've made through art, be it galleries or commissions or whatever, it's all done through social media.
Yeah. What's your bet? Which one do you use the most? I mean, what's been
Instagram's probably the best.
Yeah. It's hyper visual. That's got to be why. Yeah, I'm new to Instagram. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out what I do find that I make connections faster there, but I don't know yet if they're the most valuable, as far, and I don't mean that money wise, but if they're the most valuable, because for a show like this, it's a listening show. Right. There's not a lot to see. So, you know, am I making that crossover where someone's listening to the show from something they saw on Instagram?
Yeah, I get it.
And I'm still trying to crack the nut within myself to where people want to see the people behind things, just like art. They want to meet you. They want to know you. And so, yeah, with this show, I'm finding that that's an element I'm still wading into, like putting myself on there. I'm not really big on that. Right. You know, just being seen. I don't know. It's still struggling with that. So I don't really get how it equates. Like, so you need to see me to be interested in, it's just strange. So I'm still trying to cross that bridge.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah. It took a little bit for me to get comfortable with the fact that when people know you, they'll buy your art.
Yeah.
Because they really want to know you.
Yeah.
And I was, that was, years ago when I was just like, no, they just want something pretty above their couch, but no, they don't.
No, they don't. They want to know.
The true art lovers and collectors, they really want to know.
It's true.
The story.
It's true. I mean, I'm a big comic book fan. And when ever since I was a little kid, my dad was. And I remember there used to be a comic book shop here in town that was inside of a furniture store. And he had got an artist to come in from one of the books, and it was a new book. I'd never heard of the artist before. I'd never even heard of the book, but I got to meet the guy. I watched him draw. He told stories about the characters and how he designed their suits. And I don't know, I was very young, probably 10 or 11 years old, but it stuck with me. And I started reading that book, and then I was interested in the characters. And honestly, were they the best? Probably not. But there's something special about the fact that I met him, and I got to, I don't know. There was a connection there.
Absolutely.
And it's so important to people.
We've said that word so many times throughout this cast, connection.
Yeah.
It's what it is. It's what we're all here for.
Yeah, there's people making all this stuff, Yeah, like the other day I was watching the trailer for a movie that has been written by an AI. And it may be really good. I haven't watched the film, but it scared me. And I thought, it's kind of weird, because I love following directors and listening to their commentary and learning what they wanted to do. And the world we live in now, you can meet these people. You can go watch interviews with anybody who's made a film. And I thought about this AI making this movie, and I thought, that's gonna die out if we start doing this. It's like, well, here's a new film by this program,
Yeah.
And I was like, that's so cold in some ways. It's novel and neat, but if it becomes the norm, that's terrifying to me. You know,
Yeah.
you lose the heart and soul behind so many things.
I know. I kind of see that pattern with the whole social media thing. We've all become so disconnected, which is probably why we've become so intolerant of each other, because we don't have to see each other face to face anymore.
Sure, we don't.
It's easy to dismiss you when you're not right in front of me.
Right. Yeah, I was having a conversation with somebody else about the show. In fact, trying to get them to come on the show, and I worried just from some of the dialogue that we were having that I really want to get to know this person. And everybody that I've asked to come on here, I'm like, I want to sit down and talk to you. I don't know why. You just seem like I don't even know you, but I want to know. That's just how we do things. And I worry that it comes across as I'm just trying to build the show and get people on here. And I think it was coming across that way. Like, well, you don't really want to get to know me. You just want me on the show so people will watch the show. And I was like, that's interesting, because I think that might be the way we've possibly always been, but this is not that. I really do want to get to know you, even though I don't know you. Very strange thing to say, but I do. And so I'm trying to still figure out how to approach people. You know, and say, okay, I know, and in a way I have to almost say, look, you have to just go listen to the show. There's no way for you to know what I mean by that unless you just go listen to it and find out that I really do mean what I'm saying. You know? Well, I've enjoyed talking to you.
I've enjoyed this. Thank you so much.
Yeah, now I know you. Or at least I think I do. So better.
I've been real, I promise.
Yeah.
And I love you just